Okay, thank you. Another question from the audience. Please raise your hand and we'll find the roaming mic for you. Other people that might have a question for any and all judge candidates on the panel today. Oh, right over here. Thank you, sir. Okay, okay, all right, okay. After this one, all right. Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Herman Marshall. And my question is, who is most qualified to be a judge? Is a defense attorney or an offensive attorney? Which one is more qualified to be judge?
I'm sorry, the question is, which is more qualified? What are the options you?
Qualified to be the judge.
Who is more qualified to be the judge based on?
Were you a defense attorney or offensive?
Oh, looking at prosecutor versus defense attorney. The question is, which job prepares you better to be a judge? Am I understanding the question correctly? Would you like all of them to respond, or? Yes? Okay. We'll start on this side over here. Okay, so yes, Mr. Gill, please go ahead.
A good lawyer ought to be able to argue with equal competence both sides of an issue. I don't think one side, a lawyer who has a specialty on one side or in one particular area is necessarily more or less qualified than a lawyer who practices some other specialty. I think the qualities you look for are what I talked about earlier. Experience as a lawyer, because that teaches you a way of analyzing, to know the good parts of your case and how to win your case as a lawyer. You have to analyze what's good about the other person's case and decide how to address it. It's a manner, it's a discipline. Being a lawyer is, part of being a lawyer is to develop a mental discipline, a way of thinking, a way of analyzing. And a good lawyer should be able to do practice in multiple areas of the law. The reason we tend to specialize is that some of those areas get complicated and you become very good at particular things. But the disciplines you learned as a student and as you developed, hopefully, over many years of practice, that's what really makes you a good lawyer, and you can apply those things as a judge to any area. I don't think whether you're a prosecutor or a defense lawyer should matter at all, as long as you're good at what you do and you've developed those skills I talked about, you have a good work ethic, you have a good temperament.
Well, I guess if you're asking my opinion, I would say neither. It's neither of them, because I'm neither a defense lawyer or a prosecutor, and I feel I would be best for the position. But if I had to choose between the two, once again, you can't. It really depends. There's a lot of issues that go into that. I've seen some very good prosecuting attorneys that would make excellent judges. They're very fair in what they do. I also have seen defense lawyers that are very fair and are grassroots and know the community. So, really, once again, it's that case that comes before you. You can't just say, hey, because you're a prosecutor, you're no good. Hey, because you're a defense lawyer, you're no good. I mean, you just can't do that. You can't generalize that type of thing. So it's really that's a difficult, type question to answer. You'd have to look at those type of things. Obviously, a prosecutor sometimes can get stuck where they have to follow certain regulations and rules, and they may not know what the community is actually feeling or dealing with. On the other side of it, you might have a defense lawyer who doesn't really, he sticks with his grassroots, but he doesn't really focus on other avenues and other areas of the community. So it can work both ways. Thank you.
The only one here, I believe, this panel that has prosecutorial experience is Ms. Barnes, and you've got 1 year, Pierce County, Washington, state of Washington, correct?
I've got 18 months in Pierce County and 2 years in the prosecutor's office in Washtenaw County.
Okay, Washington County. Okay, so she has the only experience, and then I have the overwhelming defense experience. And as Mr. Gill mentioned and Mr. Nichols, that doesn't matter. You know the roles, and to be a good defense attorney, you've got to know the prosecutor's job. You got to know where they're coming from. You also have to know as a defense attorney that the prosecutor has a duty to do justice. That's what they have. I appeal to that over and over and over again, and Mr. Saprinsky does the same thing. Mr. Prosecutor, you have a duty to do justice. As a defense attorney, you have to zealously represent your client. So you need to understand the roles, and to be a good defense attorney, you have to understand the prosecution too. The only thing is, when you're a judge, you're in the same courtroom, your role changes. And you'll have prosecutors that were good prosecutors make good judges, and good attorneys or defense attorneys make good judges. But if they can't get, they need to understand their role. If they can't break that role, they don't belong to be a judge. If you're going up there to be another extension of the prosecution, you don't belong in there in the judgeship. And defense the same way, because the role is different. Thank you.
You certainly have to understand every role to be a good judge, and I'm uniquely qualified to understand every role because I've played every role. And not only does that extend to the experience as many different kinds of attorney, as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, as a civil litigator, it also extends to roles within the courtroom. I've been the victim of a crime. My family was, unfortunately, there was a murder in my family. So I've seen how that impacts a family and how that impacts your life from that point on. So I have sat in the courtroom as a victim. I've sat in the courtroom as a victim advocate. I've sat in the courtroom as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, and now as a judge. And that diversity of experience is what you need.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the panelists today and the audience members. We actually don't have any more time for audience questions, but I'm sure all of you would entertain people afterwards that would like to come up and speak to you, right? And so what we're going to do at this point is offer some time for each candidate to have a closing statement. Okay, so we were consulting about as to how long this should be. Let's say 2.5 minutes. Okay, 1 minute. Who said that? Oh, okay. 1 minute's fair. How about a minute and a half? Okay. All right. So is that all right? Okay, a minute and a half for a closing statement. And after we do the closing statements, I'm going to hand it over to Ed, and he's going to talk about some things. And so, and then we can end, and I'll go home. Okay. So we're going to start on the other side since we started over here with Mr. Janer last time. We'll start with Mr. Nichols this time. A minute and a half for a closing statement.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for everyone showing up. Thanks, Ed, for putting this on. I guess all I can say to everyone is just understand that community is important to me, family is important to me. That's what I stand for. That's what I'm looking for. I'm coming into this thing. I want to be on the bench to be able to represent the community, to be able to make decisions and do a good job for you, to be able to help this community. No more of the same old, same old. We need change. The world is changing, and that's what we need, and that's what I'm looking for. So thank you again for being here, putting up with all our long wind, and I will end it at that. Thank you.